snagging, commodities. Others might think poverty, unemployment, alcoholism, high rates of suicide and violence. Tonight we're not going to be really looking at what reservations are, but why some of us, when our first thoughts are reservations, they are poverty and these negative things. So, another question. Who knows or served in the military? Who knows someone who served in the military during World War II? Yay. Almost everybody. My grandpa served, my mother's mother. My grandpa served in the Army. He was 20. He served in the Pacific, and he served in Europe. When he was in Europe, he was there, and he was there in Germany, and he was in charge of liberating the concentration camps. And what happened was they went into the town that this concentration camp was in, and they saw the devastation. And instead of cleaning it themselves, they were ordered to go into the town and demand the town people to come and clean. I never met my grandpa. He died when my mom was 8, but my grandma would tell me the stories about how he would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming because he could smell what was happening, what the smokestacks were. This happened legally. It happened first through the dehumanization of a group of people. And then the ghettos, like in Warsaw and Germany, they became actual spaces where these dehumanized people had to live. Money, infrastructure, education, employment, gone. Any subsidies that they had from the Third Reich were mediocre at best. When we think of this, we think of a person we knew who was in World War II fighting. I think of my grandpa. I think about the World War II code talkers who fought against fascism. And we won. America won. This is part of our narrative. As Americans, our values will trump others. So then what happens when we look at a picture like this? This is a map of Chicago. 1990, South Side, shell bomb. Same thing happened. A group of people are dehumanized, are wrangled into certain spots, while the other people flee to the suburbs. Infrastructure, down, because there's no more funding. Poverty, on the rise. Unemployment, on the rise. Crime, on the rise. And yet, the American narrative of this is not like what we look at World War II. Because America was responsible for doing this. So instead of America being the system that created this, it's the people. They're not working hard enough. If they're violent, well, they're violent to one another. Black on black crime. If it's poor, it's just because they're not working hard enough. They need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That's the American way. We don't think of the same thing, but it's almost parallel to what the Third Reich did, except, no mass incarceration. Oh wait, yes, there was. You should read Michelle Alexander's book. So when we see things like this, our instinct is these negative images that we don't really know are so part of how we're thinking. They're implicit in the way we think and feel towards certain people. So then what happens when we see this? Same exact thing, right? Same exact thing. But in this instance, and again, with what's happening in the segregation in Chicago, is that not only do we think, yeah, high suicide, high violence, high unemployment, but we have this thing where we feel pity, almost, where it's like, oh, those poor natives, they got such a raw deal. And that is really problematic. We'll talk about that. So when we see pictures like this is meant to elicit an emotion out of you. This is supposed to be, hey guys, we're America and we let this happen. But we kind of care just because we have all of these other stereotypes and misconceptions about Native people. So that's kind of why we care. So, porn. Poverty porn, as described by Yossi Ross, who is an activist, lawyer, writer, poet. He explained poverty porn is that media allows outside people, typically white or mainstream, to look at the stereotypical scourges within different communities of color. Allows them to be a tourist within those communities, but encourages people within those communities to play those stereotypical scourges up for effect. This is why when we said reservation, what were your first thoughts? What were they? How does the systems that we're living in create misconceptions? So poverty porn is one way misconceptions are perpetuated about reservations. The second, historical amnesia. This one is like really, really abstract, where you go, hey, if I was going to ask somebody here, name 5 Native artists. Ben Pease, duh. Not Ben Pease. Let's name somebody name an athlete. Somebody name a movement other than Standing Rock where natives are organizing and getting together. Before I taught a class in the fall, which was about dispelling the myths, I contacted about 40 people via Facebook and did interviews with them. And I asked these same questions. And I was like, hey, can you name an athlete that's native? Can you name an event that happened that dealt with natives? Can you name a historical or a present-day figure that you should know about who's native? And it was no. And they kind of felt bad. But I was like, don't worry. There's a reason why you don't know. And that's because there's this historical amnesia happening. Because it doesn't fit to that American narrative where America is the best, it doesn't get told. History isn't told. So we have one narrative, and if it doesn't fit in that, oh well. Noam Chomsky said, historical amnesia is a dangerous phenomenon. Not only because it undermines moral and intellectual integrity, but also because it lays the groundwork for crimes that lie ahead. Right now, in the legislature, there was a bill for the Montana fee waiver that people are voting to no longer have the Montana fee waiver. Also, no free college for Native students at tribal colleges or 2-year colleges. If you go, okay, they can't be that rude did that mean where they would want to take these chances away from our youth? We want to invest in them. So they wouldn't be like that. Well, they don't know the history of education with Native people, or the graduation rates, or the need for that. It gets tabled. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote probably the most beautiful book ever written. And it was, I'd like to say, a love letter to his son about being black in America. And one of the things he says is, an America that looks away is ignoring not just the sins of the past, but the sins of the present and the certain sins of the future. So, when I ask you, what do you think about reservation? What do you think about? So, the misconception of sovereignty is the right of Indian tribes to make their own laws and to have those laws govern conduct. You can all agree that that's pretty much what sovereignty is and what it should be, right? Okay. You never know. In the recent Tribes of Montana, Tribal Nations of Montana pamphlet that came out in October 2016, I thought this was hilarious because you really have to look in between the lines of like really what sovereignty is. Indian tribes retain and continue to exercise their inherent rights as sovereign governments, subject to those limitations imposed by the federal government. So yeah, you have an inherent right, but only as far as the federal government will allow. Here are some examples of that very relationship. The Indian Crimes Act of 1834. Woo! No! Anyways, the federal crime extension into Indian country with respect to native-on-native crime, crimes that by treaty remain under exclusive jurisdiction, and crimes of Indians already punished under tribal law. So this is like when we're starting the very, very, very beginnings of federal Indian law. Then we have the Major Crimes Act about, what is that, 40, 50 years later? I did not do very well in math, obviously. Federal government jurisdiction over 7 crimes, later more are included. And this was a response to a case that happened against murder, and the federal government was like, we don't like how you handled that, so we're going to step in. Public Law 280, which doesn't, it's a 6-state rule. So this is 6 states in the United States that have to abide by state jurisdiction as well as federal. Montana is not one of those. Congress gives full criminal jurisdiction on the mandatory states. Guess which one is though? Minnesota. Yeah, and you know what's happening over there. So instead of having to worry about the federal government, you also have the state coming in. So we have a misconception of sovereignty as well. So nationhood is kind of like an indigenous response to what sovereignty lacks. And nationhood is the right to self-determination unbounded by state law. This comes from a guy named Vine Deloria. Cool dude. Let me read what he said. So he was Dakota, and he says that nationhood as distinct self-government from self-government, or the domestic dependent nation status, accorded indigenous peoples in the United States the right to self-determination unbounded by the state is a concept appropriate to nationhood. So in traditional systems, it was essential to cultivate relationships that would allow for ongoing dialogue and dispute resolution. This is happening right now within our Native communities. Cool story. I was down on Northern Cheyenne and I was talking to Lane, Spotted Elk, who kind of heads up the Boys and Girls Club of Northern Cheyenne. And he was like, I was like talking to him about civil rights issues and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, hold on, I need to do this meeting. And I was like, okay, cool. So this meeting was about whether or not they should continue hosting a powwow that the youth were organizing when a member of the community had died. And it was so cool. Everyone was sitting around in a circle, and everyone had a right to speak. Yay, nay, what are your thoughts? Everybody gave their idea. And then it ended with the elder at the table. And he was like, well, traditionally, this is how we used to do it. If we want to keep our values, then we should probably do this. Then, everybody got a chance to go around again and then say, okay, I agree with that, or I disagree with that. Here's my case again. It was awesome. I was like, that's nationhood. That is what nationhood is, without any of the hoopla of state interference. I mean state as in not Montana, but state, you know. This is what it is. This is what's happening. That right there is sovereignty. So, another conception, misconception. Urban Indian or Res Indian? Which one are you? Which one means more? I heard this at one of the classes I taught here at MSU. A student said this to me. I already know everything because I used to live right near a reservation. I was like, dang, cool, reservations have like osmosis or something, where you just like could be around and just learn everything. Wow! But I always thought about that. Why did he say that? That's such a weird premise for an argument. And yet, it's more prevalent for a lot of things. We put a lot of stock into reservations here in Montana because we have a ton of them. And they're really active in their sovereignty as well as their nationhood. That we just think we know everything. So with natives too. Natives who come from the reservation, natives who live off of the reservation. There's a definitely dichotomy between the two. Some people feel that res Indians are more Indian, man. We're right here where our people are. It's true. It is true. Urban Indians, same idea though. It's just you're just in an urban setting or suburban setting. So really, when we're looking at what it means to be an Indian, right now, most Indians live off of the reservation in urban areas. So 7 out of 10 American Indians live in or near cities. And that number is growing. It comes with its own issues. For example, Montana, Bozeman, I'll say Bozeman because in Missoula, they do have an urban Indian health center. Bozeman. I know friends who they need to go see the doctor, but IHS doesn't come out here, so then they drive all the way home, be it Crow, Northern Cheyenne, Flathead, Browning. There are some urban areas that give IHS, like Butte, Missoula, but sometimes it's just better to go home. I know when I was growing up in Salt Lake City, when I used IHS, I went to the free clinic. So anybody could go to it. That was IHS in the government's eyes. So in Montana, it's not really quite that high of a statistic. The only highest one, the highest one is Northern Cheyenne. Obviously, like Little Shell doesn't count because they don't have a reservation yet. We'll see what happens this next legislative session. But this is what's interesting. So when we're talking about sovereignty as in the state or as in governance, all of these people who are living off of the reservation, there is no representation of them. No tribe has like an urban Indian representative like for Northern Cheyenne, where they live in Billings and kind of gather around there, or have a say to the explicit and needs that they have of being an urban Indian for their people. There are a really cool few people right now that are trying to get the Northern Cheyenne to create an elected position. We'll see if that happens, but if the demographic says anything, that's a huge percentage of people that are living off of the reservation. And so it's important for them to build that nationhood by having that sovereignty. Okay, so we're gonna take it down a notch to the misconception of education. I'm gonna tell you a story, and I think you might get really angry, because I got really angry. For my job, I have the coolest job. I go around and I talk to indigenous people in urban and reservation towns and cities. I was called to talk to a group in a border town. And this border town borders a few reservations, but they were having issues with their school. Basically, the school infringed upon their right to freedom, their freedom of speech. So ACLU, I was like, okay, drove up there, talked to them. Because they were fighting back against the school, they were getting backlash. And they were told, you just need to stop. Just stop. We know what's best for you. You're a student, we're the administration, we know what's right for you, just stop, like, just let it go. It wasn't that big of a deal. And these students, who were all Native students, were like, no, it was a big deal. It was. They had the administration calling them out of class. They had the local reporter trying to find them in their class and was badgering them for a statement of what they were going to do next. I got up there and I was told several different times by the same person, we're going to meet here, we're going to meet here, we're going to meet here, we're going to meet here. And I just thought, oh, they just don't know where to meet. It was a diversion tactic that they used so that nobody would hear them. We met off campus at a church in the basement, where the pastor of the church asked me who I was and then allowed me to go in to where they were at. Because these students who were just fighting for their rights couldn't trust anybody. When I talked to them about some of the things that they've been experiencing through their collegiate careers, it really ticked me off. Because it shouldn't be happening. But because of the misconceptions that these people in power had towards Native people, these Native students were facing the brunt of it. So many crazy things that they experienced. And it was all through this institution of education. A place that's supposed to be safe for them wasn't anymore. After I left, I told them, you guys, you haven't been meeting in a church. This isn't normal. And their response was, it's not. And I thought that was really, really telling. That the condition of oppression is so high that when your rights are actually violated, it's normal. So education can be quite the hurdle. This is Chief Lenniku, Ben Pease drew this. He said education is your greatest weapon. With education you are the white man's equal. Without education you are his victim, and so shall remain all of your lives. The Montana Constitution recognizes the distinct and unique cultural heritage of the American Indians and is committed in its educational goals to preserve preservation of their cultural integrity. So not only were the First Amendment rights, those people were infringing upon their Montana state rights as well. One thing that is really cool in education happens is language preservation. This is a t-shirt I got from Fort Peck because they're awesome. And they work really, really hard to bring Indian languages into their schools. One thing that they address with languages is historical trauma. The loss of the language is a trauma. For the Crow language right now, only 22% is actual fluent, and that's the best out of all Montana tribes. 22%. Little Shell, 0. Other tribes have 40 to 500 fluent speakers. And this all happened with the Montana Indian Language Preservation Program. The state legislature passed this to protect indigenous spoken, written, and sign language. Awesome. Oh, and also singing languages, so songs that can be written or spoke, also, so songs are in there too. Just recently in the legislature, House Bill 37 was asking for revisions to this bill, and it passed unanimously. It was awesome. They also got $1 million from the governor's budget to increase language preservation programs. Summer language camps, after-school programs, and more importantly, which is super cool, apps. Like not appetizers, but like on your phone. And this is the thing though, there's this distinction is that these programs are available to students on the reservation. Because that's where the money goes. The state gives the money to the reservation, they use it right there. So what about all of the urban Indians? Well, that's what the app is trying to do. That's why they're trying to get more funding to get it into urban schools. I met with Rainy Growing Thunder from Fort Peck. If you can, follow Fort Peck's Language and Culture Department on Facebook, because you will be so proud of the work that they are doing. Language, she said, is the vehicle in which we learn our identity. It's how we know who we are. I asked her, how do you say civil rights in Dakota or Dakota? And she's like, we don't have those words. We don't need those words because those words are already part of our culture. Those words have already been created. We've always had those words. So then we're like, okay, well, how do we get those words out to the people? So we're working together on that, which is awesome. Their language, this is their kids for their school. They got 2nd and 3rd place last year. This year, both teams are going to get 1st place. This is this is a Salish language app, which you can get from the App Store. It's free. That's your tax dollars at work, gentlemen and ladies. One thing was these gentlemen, again, this is Representative Winnie Boy, Amanda Curtis. Thank you. These gentlemen came down to Helena from Fort Belknap to testify about the revisions of the House Bill 37. And one of the things that Fort Belknap is doing with language revitalization is they're using it as a reforming their criminal justice. So this is super cool. People who are poor have the hardest time when they're being convicted of a crime. The criminalization of poverty is real. So what happens when you have someone who needs help? They're addicts, they are on drugs, and they're getting in trouble because of that. What do you do? Well, most people say punish. What Fort Belknap is doing is saying, you will be helped in this way, going to a program, but also instead of paying fees, you have to go to a language class, which is completely paid for. They go to these language classes, and that's where they learn their language. It's where they learn their identity. It's where they learn all of the things that they never had to get to that path where they needed drugs to be helped. The rate of violations, of reviolations, goes down astronomically, to the point where it's like they're trying to expand this. They have one in Lodgepole, Hayes, and Fort Belknap. So for you, as people who are native, who are non-native, what do we do? I gave you a couple of examples of some misconceptions that need to be broken down. You can do that now. I gave you some ideas of what's actually happening in Montana that they need your voice to work on, to creating that change. One thing that we have to learn, especially for the next 4 years. It's been a long 4 years. We have to learn to love each other. To love the differences, not tolerate, to love. To show love. Hey, friend, you're kind of misinformed here. Let's talk about this. Hey, come over to my house. We're going to have dinner. We're going to talk about Indian languages and how we can get involved. Hey, let's go over to this place. They're having a book club. Talk about Montana Indians. Hey, there's a lecture at the Montana Museum of the Rockies. I'm going to go. We have to organize now. The time is over for dialogue. We're done. We need organization efforts. We need to make sure that those kids whose rights were infringed know that they're not alone. By just our bodies. By just saying, hey, we're with you. I think that's the only way that we can change what needs to be changed and to support what needs to be supported. So, misconceptions, reservations, there's a lot. It's important to remember to think about them, why we're thinking about them, and what we can do to actually change those. So thank you so much for everything, and have a good night.